World War I ended in defeat for Germany. A young Adolf Hitler, once an aspiring artist, emerged from the trenches with a deep sense of resentment. The Treaty of Versailles, which held Germany responsible for the war, fueled his anger. Germany was in chaos. Economic hardship and political instability were rampant. It was in this atmosphere of despair that Hitler's political journey began. He found a new purpose: to save Germany from its enemies. The German army, wary of communist uprisings, employed Hitler as an informant. His task was to infiltrate and monitor the German Workers' Party, or DAP, a small fringe group with nationalist sentiments. Hitler, with his keen sense of observation and growing oratory skills, quickly assessed the party. He saw potential in their message of national pride and resentment towards the Treaty of Versailles. His own beliefs, a mix of extreme nationalism, anti-Semitism, and a desire for a strong Germany, resonated with the DAP's ideology. This marked the beginning of his transformation from a disgruntled soldier to a political agitator. Hitler's charisma and fiery speeches drew crowds. He tapped into the anger and frustration of the German people, blaming the Jews, communists, and the Weimar Republic for their misfortunes. His words offered a scapegoat for their suffering and a promise of a glorious future under his leadership. The DAP, initially wary of the newcomer, soon realized they had found a powerful voice. Hitler's influence within the party grew rapidly. He became a dominant figure, shaping the party's direction with his extremist views. Hitler's ambition was clear. He sought not just to influence the DAP but to control it, to mold it into an instrument of his grand vision for Germany. Little did anyone know that this disgruntled soldier, once lost in the aftermath of war, was on the path to becoming one of history's most infamous dictators. The German Workers' Party, though small, provided Hitler with a platform to hone his political skills. He observed their meetings, studied their members, and learned the art of persuasion. His fiery rhetoric and passionate delivery captivated audiences. He spoke of national revival, of tearing apart the shackles of the Versailles Treaty and restoring Germany to its former glory. His words resonated with the people, who were desperate for a solution to their suffering. Hitler's influence within the party grew rapidly. He was appointed the party's chief of propaganda, a role that played perfectly to his strengths. He understood the power of imagery and symbolism. He recognized the need for a powerful and recognizable emblem. He chose the swastika, an ancient symbol he believed held mystical power, and incorporated it into a red and black flag. This striking visual, combined with his potent speeches, began to attract a wider following. The party, initially a collection of disgruntled nationalists and anti-Semites, lacked structure and discipline. Hitler saw an opportunity to mold them into a formidable force. He established the SA, a paramilitary wing, to provide security at party meetings and intimidate opponents. These stormtroopers, clad in brown shirts, became a visible symbol of the party's growing power and a tool for silencing dissent. Under Hitler's leadership, the DAP was transforming. He was no longer just an informant but a driving force, shaping the party's ideology and methods. The once insignificant group was evolving into a movement, fueled by Hitler's ambition and the desperation of a nation yearning for stability and strength. The seeds of the Nazi Party were sown, and Hitler was poised to reap a harvest of power. In 1920, a year after joining the DAP, Hitler spearheaded the renaming of the party to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, commonly known as the Nazi Party. This rebranding was more than just a name change. It reflected Hitler's vision for the party's future. He wanted to broaden the party's appeal beyond just disgruntled workers to attract a wider spectrum of German society. The name change was carefully calculated to appeal to nationalists, socialists, and workers alike. The Nazi Party platform, a 25-point program, outlined Hitler's vision for Germany. It promised the unification of all German people, the repeal of the Treaty of Versailles, land reform, and the exclusion of Jews from German citizenship. This mix of nationalistic fervor, socialist promises, and blatant anti-Semitism resonated with a population battered by economic hardship and political instability. People were looking for answers, for someone to blame, and for someone to offer them hope. Hitler provided all three. The SA, initially formed to provide security at party meetings, played an increasingly important role in the Nazi Party's rise. Comprised largely of unemployed veterans and disgruntled young men, the SA was a volatile mix of nationalism, frustration, and violence. They were Hitler's street fighters, disrupting political meetings of opposing parties, intimidating voters, and creating an atmosphere of fear and intimidation. The SA's brutality and willingness to use violence became synonymous with the Nazi Party, further contributing to their image as a party of action and strength. The Nazi Party was evolving from a fringe group into a powerful political force. Hitler's strategic rebranding, the appeal of the party's platform, and the SA's growing presence on the streets created a potent mix that was impossible to ignore. Germany, teetering on the edge of chaos, provided fertile ground for Hitler's message of hate and hope to take root and flourish. The German economy, already devastated by World War I, spiraled further downward in the early 1920s. The Weimar Republic, struggling to meet the crushing war reparations demanded by the victors, resorted to printing more money. This led to hyperinflation, wiping out the savings of the middle class, and plunging millions into poverty. The German mark became almost worthless, a symbol of the nation's economic collapse. The economic crisis had a profound impact on German society. It created widespread unemployment, hunger, and despair. People lost faith in the government and traditional political parties, creating an opening for extremist groups like the Nazis to exploit. Hitler and his party capitalized on the fear and uncertainty, presenting themselves as the only ones who could restore order and prosperity. The Nazi Party's message resonated particularly strongly with the middle class, who had been hardest hit by the economic collapse. They had lost their savings, their jobs, and their sense of security. Hitler offered them a scapegoat for their misfortune: the Jews, whom he blamed for Germany's economic woes. He also appealed to their sense of nationalism, promising to restore Germany to its former greatness. The economic crisis created the perfect storm for the rise of extremism. People were desperate for a solution, for someone to blame, and for someone to offer them hope. Hitler and the Nazi Party, with their message of hate and their promises of salvation, were waiting to fill the void. The economic suffering of the German people became a powerful tool in Hitler's hands, a means to manipulate and control, to turn despair into support for his radical ideology.